It's a special day. Chris Ying is not here today. He has some kind of bubonic plague virus, and it's about time. I can finally have the podcast back to myself.
Congrats.
And because it's such a celebratory occasion, we are joined with two special guests from Anajak Thai, and we'll explain who they are in a second. But if you're from the LA area, you follow food in general. I mean, they're riding high. Obama and his family just came in to eat at Anajak, but Justin and Ian are here, and we'll talk a lot more about Anajak in a second, and we are really blessed to have them here because they're going to talk a little bit about wine as we go into a Majordomo-ing. And if you're not familiar with what Majordomo-ing is, you know, this is the year we're going to start sort of planting seeds about how to become more knowledgeable and not just be a poser in certain hobbies, and expanding the things that are sort of analog, the things that you need to spend time to become better at. And wine, boy, it's a juicy one, and we're going to get to that in a second. And we're going to do a moif and a few other things. And I might talk a little about how I might have some preferences in wine that might make Ian, the great sommelier here, a little squeamish. So we'll get to that in a second. Welcome to the Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Majordomo Media. Thank you, Yola Tengo, as always. Joined with just you know, it's funny. I was just preparing all of this before the pod, and I hate, especially on Dinner Time Live, as I butchered so many names on this show. I'm just going to ask you, Justin.
You butchered the first name, though, which is funny because most people butcher the last name.
How do I pronounce the name properly?
Justin Pichetrungsi.
Pichetrungsi.
But that's like, you know, that's like English phonetics. If you want to really go like full Thai, it's a different
I know, it's like your middle name is another.
Yeah, it requires a small dance move and like a curling of the tongue.
So just a reminder, you can watch this on Spotify, on the app, and on our Discord channel. I promise we're going to spend more time doing the YouTube channel right as well, and you can visit us at the Dave Chang Show. We also have at the Recipe Club and Majordomo Media. And again, you can join us on Discord at majordomo.com and get someone to help you figure it out, because I certainly did. But I don't want to bury the lead here, but we got some wine in front of us. If you're listening, you can clearly watch this.
We can do some ASMR wine pouring stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you want.
Very down.
And we're joined with Ian, the sommelier of Anajak. Before we get to Justin, when did you know you were going to be a wine professional?
Oh, yeah. It happened when I was working at Cali restaurant with Drew Langley. And one day he pulled me out of the bar and said, "You have a wine tasting appointment tomorrow." And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And he's like, "I think you're ready." It's kind of like just go. And then I took a few tasting appointments, and then...
How many years ago was this?
This was probably 7 years ago.
And at what level on a 1 to 10 Majordomo scale would you have put yourself on?
I was probably a 1. I was an initiate, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't really know, but I trusted the palate. I bought a bunch of wine, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, that's exactly... Oh, yeah, Jurançon? You bought a Jurançon? We're putting an asparagus dish on. You remember that from Providence, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." You know, faking it till I made it.
Justin, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but Asian families aren't well known unless they're like, you know, mainland Chinese billionaires, right? And even then, it's questionable as to the wine knowledge. But I just feel like Asian families just don't grow up drinking wine as a beverage or learning anything about that as well.
Yeah,
Did you?
That's true. No. My dad drank. I mean, he drank like Chablis, but he was a beer drinker, really.
Nothing wrong with that.
He loved his Kirin, his Sapporo. He loved his sake. He loved his Singha. But he was kind of a Japanese beer drinker guy. So the wine list at Anajak was it fit on one of those little
Table tents.
A-frame
Table
tent things.
So when in your career, growing up in a restaurant family, where you're like, I want to take wine seriously?
100%. I was like, because I knew it. I was like, how are these glasses like $9, $6? And like they were served in these little, it just didn't, I was like, this doesn't look like other restaurants' wines. And why?
Yeah.
I felt very self-conscious about it.
But nobody starts out learning about wine at a higher level, unless you actually, the only ways you grow up as like a wine Nepo baby, which is clearly not fair at all, or
That's true.
they just know so much more about wine, or if you sort of grow up in Europe.
I took a trip to Bordeaux, and that's when the first like moments of the romanticism of wine really hit me. And it's also one of those things where like it was the only part of the restaurant that I knew I could take from my parents and that I could control, because they weren't going to fight me on it. So the very first cases of wine, I put in like $800 and I bought 6 cases of wine.
What was that case? You remember?
I remember all of those wines. I remember it was Pepier Muscadet, it was Francois Pinon Vouvray, it was Foradori, the red.
The
Teraldigo.
Nice.
It was Jean-Paul Brun Beaujolais.
Solid.
Well, hold on.
Solid.
And those are great wines.
This is important.
Solid.
For those that are listening, and so much about Majordomo-ing or even our profession at large or any other profession, whether it's financial investing or tech or whatever, it's all about the vocabulary. In those wines you just mentioned in your first case, how many different kinds of wines were they?
It was 6 different
kinds.
6 different wines.
And
the only training I had at that moment was I had read Asimov's book.
Eric Asimov used to still writes for the New York Times, was the 25 and under, and then the wine critic.
Really one of my favorite voices in wine. And I was drinking with some buddies who had a wine store here in LA, and I started studying with them.
But you just named Muscadet, Vouvray. You just named words that I would say 99.9% of anybody, even in food, are like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I was kind of faking it till I made it at the same time, because the reps are the one that kind of teaches.
This is the interesting moment, the faking it till you make it bit. But for an average listener, Muscadet, what does that mean to somebody? Do they even need to know this?
You know what? I think if it's on a BTG list.
And what's a BTG?
By the glass offering at a restaurant, and it's of a certain price. And Muscadet at the time was probably $11 per glass on the list.
Good value.
And people would be like, what's Muscadet? And you'd say, well, it's like a bright, fresh wine. Oh, if I like Sauvignon Blanc, will I like that? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, go for it. And then they taste you on it. And then over time, you like read about it and you understand where it comes from and how it's made. And then, the knowledge builds slowly. And, years later, we don't drink Muscadet at all, which is
why not?
It's one rule that he won't let me buy any Muscadet for the
why not? Why not? Right? Why not?
Why? I mean, what? That's true.
No, but let's be honest.
Are we being jerks about that?
Yes, it's okay to be jerks.
Okay, it's cheap, and it's always cheap, and there's no expensive Muscadet out there. So like
there may be like 1 or 2.
Where is it produced? Where's the grape?
So it's like Atlantic coast of the Loire. So like it's right on the coast. So that's a big kind of swarthing region of mass-produced wines, and then there are a few really well-made wines, but it's not something someone would go to a place to drink, which is a lot of our list is kind of like that. Like you go to our restaurant to get white Burgundy or champagne, but to go to our place to do Muscadets.
And when you were going back to your first wine tasting, did you even know what a Muscadet was?
No
did you even
way.
know what the Loire Valley is?
Barely. No way. But then the reps, as you were saying, totally educate you. They totally get you right.
So like let's do this right now. What are they doing that anyone else will never experience? And who are these reps?
They're like not lifers, but this is their career, is to go restaurant and pitch. And so they're pitching you their wines. They're actually teaching you what a wine is, and then you're tasting it, and they're telling you what you're tasting.
They're Willie Lomuth, traveling salesman, with somewhat questionable drinking practices.
Yes,
but honestly, some of our like sort of best friends and homies, they are the good and great reps of the restaurant or of the wine world. And
Yep.
I mean, they're kind of awesome. They're kind of unsung heroes
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
They really are the true VIPs sometimes. Like, we treat our reps with like severe reverence sometimes because they also hold the keys to the castle of the wines we really want. So you really want to get to know them and then support them.
They're drug dealers.
Drug dealers, yeah. They got that
They're
blue.
they're a mobile like Supreme store, Rolex
Yeah,
store.
yeah.
And that's what I think people need to know is like,
Yeah.
why do they have, what kind of power do they have through their connections over the years? And some of them, they may have been a producer or somebody in the business of note or a formal sommelier,
Mm-hmm.
but they have to be personable, affable, and a deep connection, like a deep network of connections.
Yes.
It's a hard job.
Hard.
But they are the gatekeepers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they bestow to you what they think immediately is good and delicious.
Yes. And
Reps have agendas. Restaurants have agendas. Wine directors have agendas.
Mhm.
We're trying to meet in the middle.
Our agendas often do go in different ways, but you find a way. You find a way to make everything work.
How much of this, this is done in a lot of the luxury goods space where you're like, well, whether it's cars or luxury items, jewelry, you have to buy things you don't want to buy in order to buy the 1 or 2 bottles that you want. You have to buy cases and cases and cases of other stuff.
Yep.
If not a full pallet of something in order to yield 1 bottle of something allocated.
It's
sometimes.
so crazy.
It is really a racket.
Mm-hmm. Squeezing you a little bit. Yeah.
Do you feel that after all these years you have a little bit more power to prevent this from happening?
We put in time playing chess. I mean, I was playing checkers with my reps. You're playing chess. I think it's a hard game, but I want everyone to win.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's wines that we want, and there's ways to get them faster and more expensive, obviously.
And are there ways where you can bypass the rep altogether?
Yes.
Is that advisable?
No.
Why not?
The rep will find out.
But I'll say that my reps became great friends of mine. They took me and they gave me the real knowledge. It's very, very hard to learn wine as a consumer if you don't work in a restaurant, because your exposure when you're in a restaurant is just so much higher. When you're buying wine is even higher.
Explain that, right? And I've used this as an example, like the great poker player Doyle Brunson used to say, like, you need to play X amount. It's really similar to the Gladwell 10,000 hour rule. Like before computers, like you actually physically had to see hands of poker. The more hands of poker you saw, the better you got.
Right.
Well, the one thing about food and beverage is you actually physically have to see it, taste it, and hold it.
Yes.
And it's not something you can always get access to. So like having a restaurant or working a restaurant, you just cannot compare. So learning about wine, there are other ways, and let's explore that in a second. It's clearly the best way to learn about wine is just working in a restaurant that serves wine.
Oh my God. I remember pre-shift meeting every day at Providence, and it was Drew showing us Montelí. And I was like, what's a Montelí? And he's like, yeah, it's an unappreciated
In Providence
red
again, for those that don't know?
Yeah, 2 Michelin star restaurant, Michael Cimarusti. Basically, I think the top seafood restaurant in LA.
I think it's the best restaurant in LA.
Yeah.
It's so
It should be
good.
3 Michelin star, and if it's not, I don't know.
It's so good.
And the refurb on it's so nice.
Oh yeah. But yeah, every pre-shift meeting, you're learning a new chapter of a book, or next day is Chateauneuf-du-Pape, the next day is something else, and you just retain whatever you can. But some of it stays, and then you can read up on it or whatever. But yeah, it's irreplaceable knowledge every day.
And how do you learn? Because there are a group of people that are not reps, that don't work in the industry, either as, producers, vineyards, or, front of the house, back of the house. And every so often you're like, where did you get these superpowers? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to go, I think, is the number one thing. If you want to learn about wine, really, you have to be somewhere. So go to, Napa, go to Sonoma, Santa Barbara, talk to winemakers and try all their varieties. And then you can dive deeper into where those varieties originate or why they exist or why they taste the way they do in what soil. Because the first time I went to France and I stayed in Fleury and Beaujolais, I was like, this is, just something clicks. Then you talk to some winemakers and you get hammered with them at like 9 a.m. You cry, and then it's just like the best thing. So I think you got to go sometimes. Can't do it.
You got to travel to the region.
Yeah, I think so. It's
But
really important.
To me, and I will be overly reductive here, I find the individuals that are not of the industry but have an extreme depth of wine knowledge happen to be obscenely wealthy.
Sure.
It helps to have like a boatload of cash on hand to spend.
Which is what is sort of bullshit about like learning about wine, right? Like it's physically almost impossible unless you work there. To prove me wrong, like I think to be like a 9-10 top tier wine person, enthusiast, you need to have
a lot
of green.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, is it even worth talking about?
Yeah.
Because you're buying access.
Yeah.
And you're buying the reps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And these are individuals that are, quite frankly, desired as clientele for restaurants, and also some of your biggest pain in the ass people you've ever met in your life. Agreed? Can you guys describe what a top tier, in a world of no tens, like a 9 non-sommelier, non-industry related wine person? Let's describe, because I don't know if a lot of people even know who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
Just like sort of like let's typecast them.
Typecast?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have a couple friends, and some make good money, and some make great money, probably, and they are collectors. I know one that's a lawyer. I know several that are lawyers. I know several that are music managers. I know several that are sort of wealth management folks.
They got scratch.
I know some that are like accountants. But they're pretty obsessive about the collection part. It's not only the ones that are really good is that they're not only about the most expensive bottles. They are really finding good deals. They're going into auctions. They're going into online auctions. They're rating people's estates and like understanding what's good on the market here or there, what's undervalued, what's overvalued, kind of thing. It's a kind of a stock market, if you will.
It is a collectible, like
it's an
anything
index.
else.
Yeah.
But let's break down what you just said, a collector. Let's define, like, how does one even, when do you become a collector?
I think if you got one of those tall boy wine fridges and it's constantly stocked, that's the beginning levels.
If you travel and you bring back bottles, 6 bottles, and you just shove them in there and you don't look at them, I can't do that. I drink them. So
like what is the litmus test? What is the sign where you're like, this person still might be a poser, but they're taking it seriously and they're actually now a collector? I would probably say when they travel with a wine bag.
Oh,
I like that.
That to me is like, if you actually bought a wine bag that carries 2 bottles of wine, and you know that it looks ridiculous,
bring it to restaurants
and you bring it to restaurants.
I would say step up from that. You bring your own box of stems.
Yeah.
I mean, the first person to do that at Anajak was Charlie. And when Charlie brought his own stems, I shouts to Charlie.
Shout out.
Charlie's a lawyer as well.
But
he's like...
What does it feel like when you're a restaurant? Because it's happened to me a ton. It's humiliating in a lot of ways, embarrassing, when a wine drinker was like, I'm bringing my own stemware.
I mean, at least for Anajak, I think it's realistic because we're using Riedels, and they're realistic for a restaurant to stock, and they
What do you mean by realistic?
They're realistic, meaning they don't break as often as the nicest of the nicest, but they fulfill the volume shape requirement for that specific type of wine. So we have all-purpose glasses in front of us, which is a base, like it works for anything.
But a top-tier wine person,
well, that's only drinking Burgundy is going to want that Burgundy bowl.
And they get upset.
And they have to have it the way that they want it,
Right.
And so I think it was actually cool to see that moment happen because they're like, well, we love the food. You're just not there yet. And this is before you came.
Right.
It was like, you guys are just not there yet in terms of stems or wine service. But then since then, we have an Ian who has been doing great. Charlie did say to us recently, he was like, you got to change your stems.
Yeah, you got to get some Zaltos in there.
Zalto is, widely considered the best available handmade wine glass and very distinctive in its look. But it took me a while to understand when a collector would come in and bring in their own box. And I do think that is a major step up because you're really sort of peacocking in a way.
Yeah, I do it.
That's a high level of wine snobbery.
We have people that bring in their own chopsticks.
Yeah.
Are they from where?
No, they're not from where chopsticks originate
They're
from,
not from-
but that's okay.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
we got to change this entire topic of this.
I respect it. It's very unique. It's a new approach. I've never thought of that before. But
There's
cool.
some
It's
there's
cool.
some wine people have idiosyncrasies. And
That's a very polite way.
Yeah.
Why
Because
does it
I-
matter? Because
okay, because you know
because
why?
you
Because
remember, you're not talking to people. I hope we're trying to educate people that maybe want to know more. Because like anything else, that's a fine thing in culture. You can't. You're like, why would that coat from Hermes be $13,000? It's just a coat.
I don't know why.
so why specific stems?
Why do stem wear matter?
I have an answer.
I would love to hear it.
Like, you pick up a wine glass and you just hold it. If it's heavy, it's weird to try to swirl it. And that's unlocking all the flavors. You wanted the good weight. And the glass has to be thin so that when you taste it, you're not chewing on it because it interrupts the tasting process. I mean, because we're like looking for like really intricate stuff in the wine. But if it's not in the right stem, you won't get it. And also like when it's thick, you can't have as much wine in there as you need to actually like properly smell. And then the aromatics don't escape. They get trapped in there. So if the bowl's not big enough, if it's not thin enough, you won't get it. It just won't come to your nose.
How much of it just psychosomatic? Because that's what I actually think that it is. Everything you just said is true, but having been in a lot of these situations, I think if you're opening up some giant bottle and people are there to drink this giant bottle and several verticals of it, it's the vibe.
I think
It's
you're
part of
right.
the
I
vibe.
think it's everything.
Yeah.
The stems is just the beginning part of the conversation, but I've been to restaurants where they have the right wine and they have the right stem, but the lighting was off, the music was off, and the food sucked, and the wine just couldn't taste good in that environment.
Yeah.
And then I've also been to like house parties that serve really expensive Riesling in solo cups.
Yeah.
And the vibe was right and the food was good. I was serving the food. But the wine just works. And is it the best possible like output for that wine in a red solo cup? No, but it matched perfectly.
And this is sort of what I wanted to get at is I think if you want to get in the world of wine, you got to know the zeitgeist, the feel, because it's more of a vibe thing than I think people realize, because whether you realize it or not, you are emoting a certain status. You are trying to, when I say peacock, in some ways it is, but if you don't feel good because you know all the labor and love and time and cost that went into procuring a certain bottle, it's so much of like, I have to feel like everything else is at the same level.
You know what's
Food and
interesting is like at I was talking to Chad from Antico, Chef Chad Colby, and he was saying that a celebrity had come in, and he said once that celebrity sat, everyone started ordering really nice bottles of wine. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating.
That's state of mind.
That is
It's confidence game.
Kind of a signaling.
And being a sommelier is a confidence game.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing a Jedi mind trick.
All the time. I got the tricks. That's like being a car salesman, but giving something people that they want. Because I'm not trying to sell you a Corvette. I'm just putting the right bottle on your table that'll make you happy. That's like what I'm there for. But sometimes they don't trust you, and you just have to find a way to make them trust you. Just believe me.
At Anajak, it's different though a little bit because like I think some people come for the list,
Mm-hmm.
and then other people come to discover.
Yeah.
So if people are like coming for the list and they're seeking out specific bottles, like your job is not a salesman anymore. It's
Right.
just you're just curating the table experience.
But in some ways, it still is, in my opinion, a confidence game because you're trying to make them feel good, comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if
Right.
it is a sense of discovery.
Sure. Right.
It took me forever to learn the importance of wine, not just because of what it adds to the bottom line, but you have to get all of these factors, as you were saying, the lighting, the food, the tableware, the silver, everything's got to be perfect for, I feel like, to get the repeat business, to get the customers that you want. Because once you get that certain class of wine people, then it's like the best repeatable business.
Yeah.
It's hard because
So,
like some really high-end restaurants, it's hard for them to sell wine because the environments are too austere and too temple-like. And so people are timid to feel like they can enjoy libations in this perfect environment. And then you have our place, which actually we're trying to get people more it's hard to be comfortable in our dining room. And people want to drink in it, but like if we go too far in the other direction, it's like people are also not going to want to drink.
Yeah, if we took down the Kobe jersey, people might not feel that nostalgia and feeling of being at home. You know, that's one way to like.
The Kobe jersey sells wine, is what you're saying.
They look at it and they go, to Kobe, you know, it's just like a thing. Made me feel a certain way when I ate there.
That's true. That's
I think
interesting.
100% it does.
Yeah.
That's true.
I can't think of anything in the hospitality business that is much as just selling confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But not in a way where like he's like, I feel like a car salesman is not, it's just not the right way to put it. Like, you know, every single wine on that list.
Sure.
Like to say that it's tricks is like, if I was to go and sell wine from that list, like I'd have to lie about some stuff. You know what I mean?
But you don't
have to.
You're the best chef somm I've ever seen. Like you've sold.
I had to do it once.
Yeah.
I had to do it a few times.
There's no one to work that night. It's like you just went out there
going for it.
It's like so cool. It's like, oh, but no one.
It's hard for people to say. People don't want to say no. If I'm like, you gotta trust me on this one, you know.
Right.
I'm just like, Ian, what are we selling today? You know.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things, I think.
So what stem would you say, if we were to move on from our Riedels, which company would you say we would go with if you were to really kind of match the stem with the place?
I guess Glassvin, we've had it before, but just the amount of breakage was almost too much to handle. But I do really like Glassvin. They use them at La Palais, so like everything is Glassvin, and I have them at home. I have one left, but yeah, they're. But I think the feel of Glassvin,
because it feels like it's like a sports car. It's just like it just goes,
or like a wand, like a Harry Potter wand. It fits you. You know, it's like the wand chooses you, like the Glassvin chooses you.
A couple more questions. We'll move on. For someone dining at a restaurant, how much does the staff actually know
about wine?
Yeah.
Does the rest of the staff know?
I think it's under the assumption, even if you're not asking the sommelier.
Yeah.
And I think this is more to do with people not knowing the hierarchy within a restaurant. And it can lead to sometimes, I would say not inappropriate, but like awkward conversations.
Yeah.
Where they'll just go to a back waiter.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, can you tell me something about this?
Yeah.
And it's not anyone's fault. But you just can't walk into a restaurant expecting that everybody knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that is the case oftentimes?
Well, I think from personal, the back waiter just knows. They say, go get the sommelier. They don't try to talk about.
They got to pass the buck quickly.
Yeah, they do. I don't think they even,
because they gotta do other stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like, let me get
But
you.
even
the right
sometimes
people.
a captain.
Sometimes a
Captains
captain.
are vary in their knowledge.
I think everyone below a somm should have their points to remember.
Mm-hmm.
That is just good enough. Our team, I
But,
would say
you
the
know-
servers are really good. We just say, know you're by the glass.
Yeah.
Bottles we'll take care of, but everyone else should be on the by the glass game and able to answer those questions pretty confidently. I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you give them their little sheets and then you give them a little taste of something once a week. And if they have, I would say, if you have questions, come, I'll give you all of my knowledge for free. And it's a good thing. I think some of our servers have gotten certifications actually to be somms. And so in that case, yes, I trust.
But you do know, I mean, we've been doing the Friday tastings.
Yeah.
And we do like a full blind tasting, like CMS grid, Court of Master Sommelier grid. He's like timing it, and then we all reveal the bottles at the end and see if we got them. And then with the leftover wine, Ian's got a pretty fun, what do you call it?
F around and find out Fridays. So I sell a glass of wine to a guest for $25, but if they can tell me the grape in the place, it's on the house from the wines that we taste. People love it. They come back to do it. They're obsessed. And we actually ate some. We ate on Friday. We got.
We got got.
We got got a few times. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. We get back. I want to go back a little bit more into Anajak Thai, and I think Ian might pop open some of these bottles. All right, we're back. Ian, what do we got here?
Well, we've been collaborating with some wineries, around the world actually, to make some of our own cuvées, basically.
What's the word cuvée?
It's a blend. So yeah, these are blends. Cuvée is just it's a word it's a big word, but basically a blend. So we have.
Is that necessarily a bad thing when people see cuvée?
No, cuvée is good. Cuvée is good. Like some of the most expensive wines are called cuvée something. But yeah, I think that these ones are our favorite, not our favorite, but our most challenging to make because they're European winemakers. So we actually have like European wines with our labels on it, and like the importer was super happy to do it for us, and great artwork from Chef Justin, and actually some artwork from his grandfather too.
No, crack it open.
Yeah, I'm crack it.
Come on, Ian. What's up? What's going on, dude?
Ready?
Is this screw top mean it's terrible?
This winery started using screw tops in 2000.
Talk about confidence game,
Confidence game. Yeah.
right?
Right.
It's about everything in its place because I feel like a big bottle can't have a screw top to people. I mean, mentally, they might have a problem with that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think with Riesling, they have really gone in the other direction. And
It's almost
because
exclusively.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to have like fresh Riesling within 1 to 2 years,
Yeah.
screw cap's great.
All right. So what am I supposed to do here now?
Well, the idea is I just popped it. Some people don't like the little fizzy kind of carb because when they bottle this, they put a little CO2 and then they pump it. So it might be a little fizzy. So you kind of work the fizz out,
So
swirl it around.
I walked in. We're going to talk about Anajak's wine and history in a second, but I sit down, great wine list. I want to know, I hear the story that this is going to pair well with some of the dishes.
Yeah.
And I really want to get into this moment and see from your perspective, sitting like 4 or 5 people, they expect me being someone that's ascending in my wine knowledge to now order the wine. So now I have to
Yeah.
impress you
Yeah.
because, again, people need to know you're constantly being judged.
Yeah.
Are you judging your clientele all the time?
It's almost hard not to.
But you're judging you're a dum-dum and you're not a dum-dum.
I kind of have to judge
You have
them.
to.
I have to judge
Yeah.
them. Yeah, to be able to know how to speak to them about something. Not to correct them when they mispronounce something.
But that doesn't mean you don't know anything about wine.
Right.
So now I mispronounced this wine, and what are we drinking?
Riesling, Mosel Riesling.
What does that mean?
It's a Riesling grape from the Mosel, which is the birthplace of the Riesling grape. So this is like the autochthonous.
Characteristics of a Riesling are what?
Usually a kiss of sweetness. This is pretty typical. Apricot, lime zest, white flowers, and maybe that touch of petrol, like it's from a chemical that just exists in the grape, TDN. So people smell it and they go, "Ooh, it smells like petrol," and I'm like, I think it's lovely. I like driving behind big trucks.
So,
I do.
Like driving
I
behind
freaking
me.
love it.
you poured this. I'm sitting at the table, and now I'm trying to
never
prove that I'm not a dum dum. What do you like? How am I supposed to hold the glass without looking
Not like this.
not wrapped around the glass? Why?
You're 98 degrees, your body. The wine should be around 40 something. So once you do that, you can warm it up to warm in like 5 minutes. So then you're drinking warm wine, and then you might go, "My wine's warm," and you send it back. So
Telltale sign immediately that your opposer is holding it improperly.
by
Holding it like
a
this,
goblet.
jail.
Yeah, it's kind of jail. And then you've got fingerprints all over your glass, and you can't see your wine like when I don't know.
And why is seeing the wine important?
It's just to look for like color, and you could tell a lot by looking at a wine. Like you could see the watery rim, you could tell if it's aged.
I mean,
or
like
if it's
there's beauty in the aesthetics of the liquid.
so cute.
I mean, in this it's simple, but in like older wine and the complexity of older wine in white or red,
Mhm.
you want to see that. You want to see the stuff that's happened.
Yes.
And what is that stuff?
Like color change, rim variation,
Yeah.
legs,
hmm
or what do you call them? Tears.
Tears.
It
Staining
looks
of the
old.
tears.
It looks old.
Yeah.
There's no way to describe it. It just looks
It
old.
looks old.
Um,
Yeah.
For the listeners, because it's your fault if you're not watching it on YouTube or Spotify at this point. In a wine glass, and these are all-purpose wine glasses, but certain wines have certain glasses. This would be an all-purpose tire. I'm now holding it on the stem, right?
Yeah.
So in any
Proper.
way you want, but you also have to hold it at a point where you can now swirl around the wine.
Right.
Yeah. Confidently.
And it's
Confidently.
just such a small movement. It's such a small movement.
This is micro
We're just rocking it.
twirling.
And it does wonders for it. But this wine has reduction. And when you swirl it like that, it will allow a lot of flavor to come out, a lot of aroma.
For those that have done tobacco products, these are the little things that you pick up if you do it after a while, and you know, like, oh, this person smokes cigarettes, or this person does
Yeah.
chewing tobacco. You get it.
You pack,
Oh,
you,
yeah,
you,
that's-
you pack
that's
the
true.
cigarettes
You
when
know?
you buy them.
There's these little
Pack
things
them.
you're like, immediately like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with somebody
not
that
a
knows.
noob. Yeah.
Oh,
And
100%.
all of this can be revealed before even tasting it, as you're judging somebody.
Yeah. Because
But we're talking about not how to judge a wine, but how to judge a wine drinker.
Well, that's why you drink wine. Let's be honest.
Oh, man. That's true. No.
So now it's there. At what point am I supposed to be like, I smell it?
Okay, well,
Do you have to
actually,
smell it?
we went backwards. We smell before we swirl. So that's to let you know that there's no fault in the wine, because once you swirl it, it can cover up because all the aromas get lifted. So if it's messed up, if it's corked, you might not be able to tell. So you
But
just,
usually you guys are smelling it first.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
we taste every wine that we open because it'll bite you in the
This
ass.
is an important thing for people that may not know this, because I've seen this actually.
Oh yeah.
People are like, you're stealing, you're drinking my wine.
Yeah,
How often does that happen? And can you explain the scenario, what you are actually doing?
it's happened before. But usually you present the bottle first, and they think you're going to open it at the table. You have to let them know, hey, I'm going to go make sure this is all right for you to drink. And if they say no, I mean, that's okay. But it's literally every good restaurant does this. So, I mean, who knows where they've been that's not trying their wine. So as long as you let them know, hey, I'll be right back with that. But if I know the guest, I don't even tell them anymore. They order the bottle, I go open it, I
It's what
taste
you're
it.
supposed to do.
Right. It's
But
totally
it's sometimes
normal.
weird for people like, wait, it's like you're doing something wrong because your back is turned sometimes.
Yeah. Like I want to steal wine. Like we could taste that stuff whenever we want. It's funny. Like, why would I steal your wine? But also, every week I have like 3 or 4 messed up bottles that I have to go get, replacements for. So
Well, somms have to assess the wines, and the somms know what those wines should taste like. I think the PSA that needs to still be had is what is actually happening when a somm pours a taste for the person that's ordered the wine. And what is the actual communication that's the subtextual communication that's had? And to me, that has been something that we fought hard in the early days.
Yeah.
You know, when a som pours a little taste, it's not that if you like the wine or not, because you've already ordered the wine. The wine is already open.
It's yours.
That's yours.
Yeah. Yours.
The what you're assessing is it tainted? Is there faults?
Right.
But no one knows that. And actually, if we've assessed it, we may not even need to do that. So the great debate now is, if we've already assessed it behind, you know, the curtain, if you will, do we need to have the person that ordered it?
And what are you?
True.
This is always an interesting moment when somebody thinks it's corked and it's not corked, or vice versa.
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
I'm really excited to bring these up because people don't talk about this. These moments that are really Larry David Curbed like moments that are awkward.
Cork your enthusiasm.
New podcast
Oh.
by you guys spinning off at the Ringer.
That's right.
Spin off.
So all of this smelling, checking, using a light, all of this stuff.
Using the light.
Yeah. The candle.
Whatever, you know. You're looking for coloration. What are you checking? Like, people don't know, because I don't think people have ever tasted, for good reason, something that might be corked. And what is it?
So
what is it corked?
We actually go through exercises to taste for cork taint with the team. So maybe you want to describe what it is.
Well, it's fucked up, but I actually will bring corked wine to the pre-shift and have people, they're excited. They all look really like, ooh, some wine. And I go, you guys smell that? And they're like, what? I'm like, you guys smell like wet dog, moldy basement, weird stuff? Yeah. And I'm like, taste it now. Or like even a wine that's mousy. Sometimes I'll do that with a mousy wine from the day before.
What's a mousy wine?
There's a flaw in wine where it smells like you walked into a pet shop and tastes even worse. And it gets worse as it goes down, and you breathe it in and out. It's like the worst. So like those wines we cannot have at the restaurant. Try our best not to have, but every now and then you'll open a bottle and
it's a flaw
that
occurs.
Do you think that a consumer knows that this is nobody did anything wrong?
Right.
They may not understand that from bottle to fermentation to storage to how an old bottle might have been handled along the way, from its position of store. There's so many variables.
Oh yeah.
That you don't have any control over.
It's not something that I can control, except for when I open that, I will not serve it to you. Like, I'm not going to let you guys have that. Let's choose something else. It's the best thing. Like, I'm like a bodyguard for effed up wine. I think that's pretty much what I am.
So let's go to this scenario, and maybe it doesn't happen, but inevitably it always happens to some degree. Somebody that knows wine, that thinks they know wine, that we'll characterize as sort of a shitty fucking motherfucker, right? They just exude a kind of confidence that is not warranted. I hate this kind of person. And then they order a nice bottle of wine, and they're sort of rude to you guys because they're like, I know more than you do. And then you do everything right, and you pour them this, and they think that something's off.
Right.
Does this happen?
Yes.
And what are you supposed to do? And why are you so exasperated by this scenario?
It's happened.
It's just happened.
It just happened.
It just happens, and it's hard to say if it's like what is actually happening in the mind of the male ego. I'm gonna say it's always a dude.
It's always a dude.
Yeah.
Always a dude.
It's always
celebrate
a dude
the patriarchy here.
The ego
with his
taints
wife.
the palate.
Yeah. Yeah. It taints the palate.
It does.
Isn't it always some kind of? They're just not. You can almost categorize uniformly. They're not somebody you would ever want to hang out with.
It's embarrassing. My mom used to send back food in restaurants. Like, it would happen every single time. And so I was a kid, and I was so embarrassed. I would hide my face. Like, it was like always, man. And she doesn't do it anymore because I told her how uncomfortable it made me feel. And I was just like, I can't. Like, that I work in restaurants, and your husband is a chef, And like, this hurts us, man. Like, I could just see the waiter just being like, and the wine, it's fine. The food is fine. I tasted it. I'm like, it's fine, mom. Shit, but same thing.
But you know what? Like, if that person, I know I'm being all diplomatic here, and it makes Dave upset. But if they don't like it, I don't like it. And you know,
now this is where I fucking refuse on a fundamental level to give into this bullshit.
But
of
what are you going to do?
hospitality.
You're going to argue with them?
I will fucking argue with them. I will. If it need to be, right? And if they're treating the staff poorly,
yeah,
I have been known to throw this fucking person straight
if they
the fuck
treat the
out.
staff poorly, then yeah. Then we'll...
Because it almost inevitably gets to that level where... Because I hate to say that it's like a book, but they will start to treat the person poorly because they can't, in front of their table mates, look like an imbecile. So they have to elevate it immediately and pin the blame on the sommelier's fault. Drives me fucking insane. And I can't. I know you won't, and that's why.
But you know why? Because we get to drink that bottle.
Yeah, sure. It's like, no. Oh, no. Well, that's the cool thing about getting to choose all the wines, because if somebody sends one back, it's like, it's a wine that I like. But we'll try to sell it again. But some guy, I mean, this is an anecdotal thing. Some guy ordered a champagne. His wife wanted another champagne. He went with her and ordered what she wanted, and it came to the table, and he didn't like it. He told me it was corked. And I it's a really nice champagne, by the way. It was like a few $100. So I'm like, you actually, is this allowed? Like, is that allowed? And so I tried to convince them. They were like, no, it's not the style we were looking for. Then they were negged. Then they were like, okay, it's not corked. Because I went, it's not corked. And they were just, one-time exception. It's a real shame because this is a mom and pop business. This is not a place where
it's an expensive bottle.
It's an expensive bottle for the restaurant.
These
to buy.
are margins that matter
So much. And so, they went with something else. Ended up complaining about that too. I mean, I put a note on the reso and I said, next time they come, just buy the glass only.
That's one thing, is that we keep copious notes about people's wine buying behavior, and if you're difficult, it's going to be a note.
But let's go to this scenario of the consumer's right in this situation, because they're shelling out big bottles. Sometimes you can, the bigger the bottle, you scared money don't make money here.
Right.
The more that can go wrong, especially a bigger bottle, because again, all the handling in a older vintage, there's a lot of shit that can go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot that needs to be baked into the experience. And sometimes it doesn't even have to, but it was almost always and invariably at a higher price point. As a case study, why do you think that, like, we shouldn't use this as an educational moment for the customer? Because it's sometimes the responsibility is on us to stop this behavior.
Right. I mean, this is something that I do say to some tables, because they will ask to taste 2 bottles from the list. And I'll be like, oh, sorry. And I'll explain to them how the way it works. I say, like, well, if I lied about the way that this wine tastes, sure, you could send it back. But I'm not lying. This is how it tastes. And I'm going to make sure it's exactly right for you. But once I open the bottle, it's yours, And it's like a little contract. I go, but the contract is that if I lied about, like, the flavor or the body or the tannin structure or anything like that, totally, I'll get you something else.
But how often are they just fundamentally wrong?
Would this behavior happen with food?
Yes,
at a restaurant.
100%. I mean, because
it happens. It
happens all the time.
Yeah.
And this is where I have an eternal debate with somebody like Will Guidera. This is his nightmare. But that's why I've never been front of the house. And that's why I just can't. I didn't get into cooking to, like, find the middle gray area. Yeah. It's like an either or proposition to me. Yeah. And it always is scenario dependent, right? But if it gets to a level of escalation where now the sommelier or the assistant som now is, like, being, quite frankly, like, being in a position of being belittled.
Yeah, pissed on.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
That is just like, no, there's just like no fucking way I'm going to tolerate that. And I wonder, is this something as an industry is the whole idea the customer's always right? I just can't handle. I think it's so wrong.
Yeah.
And even when it comes to food, so many scenarios in food. I want this rare plus. Okay. medium, whatever. It always comes with temps meat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we know exactly what the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't. That's why we don't
do.
request
Take temps.
temperatures.
Like, you can't tell me that, like on that level, I just can't. I would rather lose money, get a terrible review, but and it's not about being right. It's the principle of it all. Like, no, like, don't walk into someone's shop and be like, you don't know what you're doing. Mistakes happen. That's not what I'm talking about.
If it's a mistake, I'll own it. Yeah. Like, I served a corked wine last week. I just didn't check the bottles. Supposed to. And they were like, this is corked. And I went, oh, fuck. So
yeah, I mean, and then there's some real gray areas when it comes to, at least our food, when it comes to like spice.
Yeah.
Or like char. Or like we want a specific amount of char and a specific amount of spice on a dish. And we don't allow for spice elections. And people are like, we want it really spicy, and then they'll send it back.
I want Thai
and it's
spicy.
Like,
oh yeah,
and then and so
how pissed off do you guys?
It's not happening.
It's not because like it's so relative, and people's like perception of wine is so relative,
Yeah.
But if it's a mistake, if like that thing was charred way more than what I would have allowed, then yeah, let's refire the thing. That's fine. But for some reason.
It's the moments where things get escalated, right? That can ruin a service that inevitably will be on Yelp or something.
Yeah.
And that's where I just, as an advocate for like front of the house, back of the house, in this, it is one of my greatest pet peeves when
I get it.
My girlfriend always says, Kelsey always says, I wish there was a Yelp for customers.
Ooh, spicy.
Trust me, I'll try to get that done. It's hard because of privacy loss.
Yeah.
Nothing would be better than having a database that restaurants could share. And not only on the consumers that are dying, I think employees too.
Ooh.
Oh.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Because then we can collect data like baseball players.
Yeah.
Right?
And we have stats.
Stats. We do have stats. It's true. It's like, well, this person makes a really great fan meal. This person has a high tolerance for pain, so that you know that they'll be able to do blah, blah, blah. Trust me, I spent way too much time. Always winding up with customers may not want their preferences.
Right.
All right, listen. We're gonna take a break again. There's so many questions to ask. I want to get to Anajak, the wine list, and a little bit of the history, and then get into the Majordomo. By the way, this is delicious.
Not bad.
It's pretty good.
Thank you.
But I feel like there's stuff in here. What's going on?
Is there stuff?
Is there stuff?
Is there stuff?
Are you about to be a wine jerk right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought. No, it was just the reflection.
Bubs.
There's
Could be
tiny
bubs.
bits of gas that are now not there.
Yeah. And it's a thing,
Yeah.
It does have bubbles in it. Yeah. But this is the quintessential wine, I think, for Thai. This is it.
Why is that?
Riesling
being
the queen of all grapes, I think. I'm just going to put it out there.
Would you agree that most people, when pair is not just Thai, but Asian food, tend to go to a Riesling?
It is a
think so.
stereotype, but there's a reason why that is the case.
Yeah.
Why?
I think because it's very aromatic, and you can go in different directions based on how spicy that cuisine is.
Now, what do you do with your cuisine when someone walks in? Because it also drives me crazy when someone's like, I don't drink white wine. I'm like, what the fuck?
What? Like, really?
But it happens all the time. Like, I don't drink white wine.
Yeah. That's crazy.
What do you do then?
So we crafted a similar version of a red with a winemaker in Beaujolais. So it's like a fruit-forward, juicy, no tannins. It doesn't have to be high alcohol. Messes with the food a little bit. So.
And Beaujolais is known for what kind of?
Really like plummy and almost like somewhat candied flavors, just based on how they make it with carbonic maceration. So, I mean, I think that it's the perfect antithesis to like the white Riesling would be like the red Beaujolais, especially with curries and stuff like that. It's wonderful. I think it's like the quintessential red, maybe.
I mean, I would say
Burgundy,
Pinot for me, a little bit higher than.
What about reds that have slight effervescence?
Sure.
We just
Lambrusco.
Yeah,
Lambrusco pairs.
It's really good.
Really
actually
well.
kind of great. Even dry Lambrusco pairs really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a great one. Bubbles are awesome with all kinds of Asian food, I think, too, because of anything that's fried. It breaks down fats really easy. It's just like, and the flavors are out, and it has sweetness too. So like a brut champagne actually has more sugar than you would think, which is nice. Spice, it just
What
kills
makes it a brute?
It would be a certain grams per liter of dosage, or how much they add to get the yeast to eat it, to re-ferment and make the bubbles again. So it's basically like measured. Some have no dosage, which means there's no sugar in the wine. And being a diabetic, like, I care about that information. So they're like, is it brut nature, brut, extra brut, or brut? And then those things help me to decide what I'm going to drink that day.
So what about the customer that is like, I feel bad for the audience. They're like, is this guy just trying to... Well, fuck it.
I'm like, you're really ragging on them right now.
Yeah, you know what?
It's 1%. It's only 1%.
It's the only time we can, okay?
Yeah. No, but the customer, and it's a specific kind of customer, is like, I only drink Tuscan, super Tuscans.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same guy that you were talking about before.
Usually is overlap, right?
Same guy.
So, what is a super Tuscan, number one? Because I feel that the word gets thrown around a lot.
Love this conversation.
Two, why would they, you guys sell some.
Yeah, sure. I have some. Yeah.
Would it be your choice to pair with food in general?
Yeah, you know what? There's levels to the Super Tuscan game. So I've had people come in where I used to work in an Italian restaurant, and they would say, IGT, please. I'm going,
what's that stand for?
IGT, Indicazione Geografica Tipica. I'm like...
People request IGT?
IGT, but I'm like, there's IGT whites too. So I'm like, okay, wait, do you want... Like, you're talking about like a Super Tuscan? They're like, yeah, that one. And I go, okay, so do you want Tignanello, or do you want like, something like that? Yeah, Tignanello. What's your price range? About 100. I go, all right. Okay.
Justin, has there ever been a customer that's ever walked into Anajak or any restaurant in the world of note, and right off the bat would take a look at a wine list? Oh, I'm good. I just want a Super Tuscan. Something in Super Tuscan. Does anyone actually? Is this it's a immediate sign of this person has no idea what they're doing? Right.
Because the term is just so juicy to them.
Oh, it sounds awesome. It's like super.
There's
Tuscan.
no other wine that has super at the beginning.
Super
No,
Tuscan.
except for Super Cali. We have one of those too.
What about a micro Tuscan?
Yo, micro Tuscan.
And what does a Super Tuscan normally entail for those? And what are some of the more well-known vineyards?
Yeah, I mean, there's basically Tignanello is like the first, official, not pretty official, but we have Super Tuscans that are really good with our food, like La Pergole Torte from Montebertine. I think that's actually one of the most incredible Sangioveses ever produced.
It's waiting for you when you show up this week.
Yeah,
we got the Jeroboam of it.
Oh yeah, I think we were holding that one in the article. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm like, that's incredible wine, but what people are actually asking for is big, oaky, high alcohol Cabernet blended with Sangiovese or Merlot, or just 100% Merlot sometimes. Ooh. So like Flaccinello or whatever, Del Pepe. I mean, that stuff is also really
I don't think
popular.
Those are eating wines. I don't even think they're steak wines. You know what I think those wines are? Cigarette wines.
Yeah, cigarette wine for sure.
Cigar wines, yeah.
Well, cigar or cigarette, like, it doesn't pair well, in my opinion, with anything other than tobacco.
We should
try dessert.
We should crack open a couple with some steaks and some cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
It's tobacco. I would even say a lot of the California cabs, which, again, like, I'm the worst kind of fucking wine snob. Someone that doesn't give a shit, truthfully, but only really wants to drink the very best or the very fucking worst.
What's in your wine fridge right now? What's in your fridge, open right now?
I don't drink wine. I barely drink these days. I have a smattering of random wines that would make it seem like, oh, you have access to a lot of stuff, but you don't give a shit. That's basically what it is.
I love it.
So some good stuff then.
Some good stuff.
Yeah.
But
nice.
A lot of times they're like an investor. So I'm like, here, you just take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think an alternative to the Super Cab, which does not have the overlap. I like to call it a Super Cab because it really is. I like that.
Super Cabs.
Super Cabs.
Sure.
Some of my friends are top tier winemakers. I can't. I don't like California cabs. This is where it sounds terrible. The vines need like 200, 300 more years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Is that so
But
wrong
with
to
really
say?
good bottle age, I mean, some are
Some are delicious.
Kind
It's
of
because they
fantastic.
started making these wines for a reason like that. Didn't used to be like that. In the 60s and 70s, the California cabs were light. They were beautiful.
Do old vines, for those that don't realize, like, how old are the vines from the European estates?
The Riesling, the vines on average from that winery are 75 years old. And a lot of them are ungrafted. So that just means they put a grape in the ground and it sprouted out, which is you don't see that anywhere. So, I mean, like, the Europeans understand the importance of old vine.
And what does it do to the flavor?
Well, like, they produce much less fruit. So all of that flavor, instead of going to all the berries, just go to like a little cluster. And the flavor is just so much better. And then the maturity happens at a much more even rate too. So the wine you make has better tannin structure.
It's like a
better
youthful.
acidity.
It's like a.
Yeah.
It's like when you were a teenager, like how much was your identity completely formed and confident, versus how you are now, which is this kind of sage,
Yes.
But I'm not.
Yes.
Would you agree? I'm not trying to sound like a total a-hole when I'm saying, like, I just wish the vines were older.
Yeah.
It's just so bright to me. I want a cigarette.
Right. Cigarettes are awesome with a big red super cab.
What are some of the? I mean, what are like probably the oldest vines in California right now? Would you say?
There are heritage vines in the Sacramento River Delta that are like over 100 years old to 130, which is almost as old as wine has been around here
in California.
Yeah.
So let's get to the most important question here: judging the group of people that want super cabs. How come no publication uses the word super cabs?
We can do
It's
it.
the same.
Let's do it.
It's the same.
Same.
I'm gonna do it.
But different group of people.
Mhm.
Super Tuscan, I find, are finance bros.
Yeah.
That's
the most part.
That's a New York leaning.
New York leaning,
Yeah.
but Super Tuscan is very New York.
Yeah.
Banker, trader bros.
Doctors too.
Doctors?
For no reason.
I did not know that.
Doctors.
a
I don't
shame.
know why they love it so much. Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not. Again, some of my close friends are like winemakers of these wines.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love them. They're delicious.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to eat them with food.
Right.
But your restaurant is about pairing wine with food.
But also, like our food is like kind of big, bold flavors.
Yeah.
And so I think we can test the limits on it if we really wanted to. I mean, sometimes people think too much about pairing wine with the food and making the food the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can also pair the food with the wine and make the wine the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can be on the same level at the same time. I think at Anajak we kind of seesaw back and forth in terms of who's supporting who,
Yeah.
and I think that's a fun way to experience it, because if I do want to drink a Super Tuscan, then let's order stuff that's going to make that experience sick,
100%. Yeah, you've always said that.
or else we're only going to be drinking this
Right.
tiny narrow band that only industry hospitality professionals tend to want to drink, and there's only like 3 wines.
Yeah.
And no other kinds of wines, in my opinion, are always led with people. Because I was just down at the Masters, and I cooked down there, and I can't even remember the name, but these 3 finance guys, they happen to own a vineyard. The first thing that they said is, it's got a 90 plus and a 98 and a 99.
Points.
Yes.
Points.
Oh man.
The points.
Yeah, you don't even live in this.
We don't even live in the point world.
I
But
don't
who
know.
is the typical point person? And what is the point system that I'm referring to?
Well, it's a guide. It was created to make it more accessible. Like you're saying, the initiate wants to know about wine. You got Wine Spectator right there. You open that thing up. It's easy. You say, that wine's good. It's 98 points. And then you just buy it. Even though their scoring rubric is based on somebody's particular taste, who shall not be named. But You know,
Just like Voldemort.
I can't say it. I'm not gonna say it. We all know. We all know who that is. I'm not gonna say it. So yeah, it's kind of a lens that you're looking through, but you're not like really looking at anything. You're just looking at somebody's palate instead of
But
like
you know what?
an aggregate.
Maybe we should bring points back
Yeah.
because I think we need to move into a range where we're starting to appreciate wine a lot easier with less I don't know. Asimov says that we should go back to mystifying wine. We should go back to like talking about the stories and stuff like that. And I agree. But I also think that the drinking public and the dining public know less about wine now than ever. And
how is that humanly possible with all that we have as in a phone and all access?
I think I think there's a generation of folks out there, young people who aren't drinking as much. I mean, alcohol sales down 40% across the United States last year. And I think that people are actually thinking about health a little bit more. I think
fools.
But I do think that the youthful generation.
You want to gamify it again.
I want to make it something where people feel like they want to collect. And because I'll tell you why I love wine. I mean, we could go back to ragging on customers, but I like it because I can pick any discipline of study. I can pick economics, geology, geography, cultural anthropology, chemistry, biology. I can pick any one of those disciplines, supply chain, and go deep into the world of understanding how to see that discipline within one bottle. And you can learn so much. But I don't think people see it that way. I think people are like, oh, this is just expensive
It's a collectible.
Juice. Yeah, right.
Now, to some degree. And we're so many aspects to talk about today, but that's the one thing that wine, as you're saying, the narrative, I totally agree. I think a reformulated point system would be more of a blessing than a curse. Maybe that's something we fuck around with. I think that'd be funny.
Yeah.
Fun project too. But wine is more of a fear of missing out, social media, I have this, you don't, status symbol. And that has replaced the narrative.
Maybe for drinkers our age, but what about drinkers younger?
Even younger. Because they now see it as, it's not even something I'm ever going to have. Why do I even care about learning about something that is only of the provenance for people that have a Jimmy Butler 11,000 bottle collection?
Right. I've seen that collection. There's a lot of super cabs in there. Ton. I was just like, oh my God.
These are all wines. We're friends with all of these. It's just more of, I think we got to be able to talk about this in a way that you don't normally talk about, because this is sort of the problem. It is too mystified. It's too much of a provenance. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm not going to learn about this. That's what I think.
Did you know what I heard? I heard that Rudy Cornilwan, the master counterfeiter of wine that went to prison, is now out of prison, right? Yeah. And he started blending wines again, but he's doing it as a class to teach people about.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's kind of awesome.
He blends cheaper wines, and tries to match them with more expensive wines, and tries to get people to judge which one's better.
Talk about a palate. That guy's a talent. Should not be wasted. He should be doing that. That's what he's really good at.
But I think it's an interesting story.
It's a great story.
Awesome story.
But I agree with you. Declining beverage sales, wine. Part of the reason to talk about this is because I think my gut tells me we're not communicating in a way that is, wine shouldn't be aspirational. And I think that's what wine has become.
And the thing that...
But think about it. It's like, I got to have the stem. I have to have this.
Yeah.
Look at the people that are ordering these wines at a restaurant. I don't, everything seems like I can't do.
I know, but it feels like fashion to me, where it's like, like these are just plain clothes, or you can buy really nice designer stuff. And like sometimes the designer stuff makes you feel better. So it's like, I think the aspirational quality is okay. Like, give people a little taste of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, you get fucked up on any kind of wine if you really wanted to, but like,
Yeah. But it really feels nice to wear a Gucci hat every now and then.
Gucci hat.
Rather than a
Dude,
Lakers
I've never
hat.
seen you wear a Gucci hat.
If I could, I would.
I know what I'm getting you for your birthday.
I would definitely rock it.
I don't know if today's the day, but I want to really go into detail about your career arc, Justin, too, because there's so many tidbits that are equally as important that maybe people may not understand of like the significance of your wine program and what you're doing, what Anajak's doing. And honestly, it's weird in the most lovely way possible. And we need more restaurants that are different, right? And celebrate it. And I don't know if people are seeing that, right? I think a lot of people are trying to copy it. Those are the right things to do. But I think what we need is you can't copy your family story and how you got there and just sort of like just trial and error. And all the baggage that's been coming along your way because of all the growing success, because it's been a lot the past 4 or 5 years, you know. But I think that would be informative on another day. But going back to the wine itself, so I'm close friends with James Murphy, and I think that he doesn't get enough credit for, I think, culturally being he didn't invent it, but I think he popularized a movement that I now characterize simply as James Murphy wine, right? I feel like you guys sell a lot of James Murphy wine.
You mean like
Small batch, biodynamic,
like natty
natural wines? Not always, but I view anything that is not, I joke, is different than what you might normally get. They have stories. They have a point of view. They have something to say that may not normally, pique the interest for somebody, right? And I think that's what it's... Originally, I think the James Murphy wines were just oxidized whites from Jura, and then it's turned into something. But even then, that was like an arbitrage for him because he's touring, and he's like, man, like, he's going all over the world. Like, I want to drink better. I don't want to drink the same stuff. And like his own music collection or his own taste, like he began to sort of go down a rabbit hole and figure out these are the different producers that I share similar sensibilities with.
Yeah.
I actually think one of the things that happened along the way, and we're talking about the late 90s, early aughts, sort of when this became would you agree, like a cultural thing in beverage programs? Because the idea of biodynamic or anything like that.
In New York, which were the first restaurants to really go into that world, would you say?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Like Four Horsemen.
Four Horsemen, but it's predated that too. And I think part of the reason it predated is because James was such a patron at all these restaurants too. I think it came over from Europe, came over from Chile.
It came over from France. 100%.
But also with all the chefs that were doing these dinners together.
Yeah.
You're always paired with a dynamic, young, crazy-ass winemaker.
Yeah.
And soon, like, all these wines at a lot of these restaurants were only biodynamic and cool stories.
No sulfur.
But I didn't understand for the longest time why the region of Jura became so fucking popular in the aughts.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's definitely a good reason.
Yeah.
What do you think the reason is?
I think it's a good alternative to Burgundy, where it wasn't so expensive back then. It can be now, but you have the same kind of like limestone terroirs. You had a lot of Chardonnay too. It was just a totally different way of thinking about the wines. They had that oxidative stuff that you were talking about. They also had like a lot of more variety that you could find in Burgundy, but with the same kind of structures and acidity levels and age abilities. And you could find old
but
stuff.
for such a great value.
Yeah, and you could find old stuff that was
It was
really
alternative.
Cool. Yeah.
And I think it was like a real moment in wine American culture where it was finally a group of people that were into food and wine that could now claim, even though it's been there for hundreds of years, claim a territory as their own. Right? Where it's not the finance bros, it's not the tech bros, it's not the old money, it's not Burgundy or Bordeaux, it's not whatever, it's not this hill that gets the most sunshine.
So undiscovered.
Yeah,
who's
drinking Vin Jaune? Like,
yeah.
Besides me and you, like, we like that stuff.
But to me, it's still only good in a sauce.
Yeah.
And this is where I become a little bit more of a classic old head in that regard. It's like, only reason is because I was able to taste the very, very best,
Yeah. That's cool.
white Burgundies, et cetera, which again, in and of itself has a terrible fucking connotation now. But
Yeah.
I think that's where we need more pockets where people can just own a story.
Totally.
And it happened with Jura, and it just turned into this revolution.
Yeah.
And we haven't really found a new pocket for people
I'm
to
surprised.
hold on to.
I'm surprised we're talking about Jura right now.
Because I don't think it gets
That's
enough
so interesting.
Yeah.
of like, it was a critical moment
Yeah.
that
Because
unlocked
it's
something.
kind of like when natural wine hit in Europe and then moved over here, it was like it's like now we're in the postmodern age.
Mm-hmm.
Because before and it was like now everyone was like, no, like we can't trust chemicals, we can't trust people's farming methods, we can't trust anything now. So we went back to this lovely way of looking at life, And I would say now that was probably modernism. I think now we're in postmodernism where we can accept both realms of possibilities from the natural.
I don't know if that's true.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Some people can accept it, but
I don't think the pendulum swings anymore. I think it's just broad spectrum. Everyone's finding their hill.
One of the fundamental issues I think that separates wine as a collectible, as a hobby, it's a weird thing because you can't appreciate whether it's like art or fashion, where you can appreciate the aesthetics of it from a distance or online, right? And intuitively, like, well, that costs a lot of money. I can't have that. Wine, you truly don't know how something is great unless you get to taste it. And there's so few people that will get to taste the great vineyards.
Mm-hmm.
They're just never going to have it. And that's I don't know how to solve that, because until you can if you taste a really great X, perfect vintage, and you're like, you have those moments and you're like, that, I don't know if it's a life-changing moment, but like, I don't know what's happening in my mouth, but it's transcendent. And I know I have to savor this moment. They're rare.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you get people to have those moments? Because unless you do, I don't think that you can share it both ways.
Yeah.
I think there's some generous people that are very generous with their wine because they know that wine is meant to be drank.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky enough to be around their sphere.
One last question, we're going to move on. In the world of, I want to get into this scale of Majordomo-ing, of 9s and 10s, right? And we're talking about not people in the industry, but just collectors, right? I think there's less than 1,000 people in America that can be considered that. Probably even less, quite frankly.
Maybe.
But really, it's about 100 people that move the auction houses as well.
Yeah.
That have, people on staff to manage. I don't know if people understand how crazy that concept is, that they have maybe more than one person just dedicated to the management of their wine lists. They have so much wine that it's on consignment at multiple restaurants.
Their own wine director. It's like,
They have
wow.
there's some athletes out there that have their own wine director.
I don't think you can get higher than that. And I just don't know. You can't, listen, you can certainly buy a wine list, but I don't know if you can actually talk about it in a way. And you get sussed out as a poser pretty early.
That's why you got to drink your shit.
Yeah, you got to drink
What do you think about people that don't drink their shit? Or they have so much that they're never going to be able to drink it all?
That's just selfish.
Yeah, that's a shame, because when they die, people are going to fight over it and drink it. So it's like, why don't you drink your shit? I don't get it. It's just like, I have no wine at home. I don't collect wine. It's because
you collect wine for a living.
Yeah, it's already there. The wine collection at Anjak is like, okay, it's here, and I'm like, okay. But honestly, at home, I don't collect wine. I think it should be enjoyed. I think it should be shared. So that's when.
But you look at it as a beverage.
Yeah, it's a beverage.
I would say another underlying thing that probably needs to change in order to increase. I think it is very deeply troubling that our wine sales, beverage sales, beer sales for younger people under like 30 is just like, it's like, it's not even going away. It's like,
it's getting worse.
It's getting worse
Yeah,
and
it's getting
worse.
worse. Oh yeah.
Is this idea that wine needs to be looked at as a beverage,
Yeah.
not as something else?
I mean, it is both, but I collect records too, but also like you gotta listen to them too. You don't just have them on a shelf. So
It's a beverage. Wine is a beverage. Wine is food.
yeah, it's food. It's
It is.
culture,
It
it's
is.
food, it's history, it's art. It's agricultural product. That's one thing it is.
You know what? For all the 20s and 30-year-olds, that's the time. That's the best time to drink alcohol because it's the time where you don't feel it as much.
Yeah.
So you should be drinking and learning how to enjoy life when your body is primed to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because once you're my age, our age, it becomes harder to enjoy at the volume that you want to enjoy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like my fear is this about wine, that it's going to become the boxing of the younger generation.
Oh,
It's the elusiveness, it's the collectability, it's the inaccessibility of all these things. And the stories don't resonate with somebody if they can't relate to it to something. Relating means tasting it too. So I just don't know what to do here to some degree.
I mean, I think about it all the time. I think the natural wine movement with colorful labels and fun fonts and illustrations and stuff, it's just a band-aid for it. It's an attempt.
I'm so happy that you're saying this. I think that is actually a net negative.
Yeah.
It's great that it makes it more temporarily accessible.
But people get excited by it.
Wait, what's going on here?
He's gonna open.
I'm just gonna open another bottle.
So do you do this at work?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Which
Right
direction?
over here. Okay.
Oh god.
Good.
Oh god. Hey! Oh shoot!
That's awesome. Don't worry.
Right over there. It's just water, guys.
And what do we think about celebrity vineyards? Is there a celebrity that makes good wine? Would you rather listen to a celebrity's political points of view
No
and
comment.
listen to their political points of view or buy their wine?
No comment.
I'd rather buy their wine.
Okay.
I guess.
Dwayne Wade makes a really good rosé.
Well, come on, man. Rosé is the lowest hanging
We
fruit.
should've-
It's easy,
should've-
but I was like, you know what? I ain't mad at that. That was cool.
We should have brought Snoop's wine.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's great.
Is it?
I would love. I would love to know.
Well, let's give some comps then. Are there cultural comps? What is the musical equivalent of rosé today?
Oh, it's definitely K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very easy. Sounds good. You can listen to it whenever. It's just cool. And for me, I don't understand the words, so it's just like easy. I just bob my head.
When someone throws the word Burgundy and Bordeaux, right? How would you define the people that comprise Burgundy versus Bordeaux? And is there a cultural match?
Maybe
Music, book, anything?
Maybe it's machismo. I think the less machismo you have, the more Burgundy you drink.
More of the salt of the earth.
They have feminine wines that can be very, very elegant instead of powerful and brooding, and you have to wait.
And Bordeaux?
That's the Bordeaux. That's the brooding.
Brooding.
That's the earth. That's the power. That's why they serve them in the Bordeaux glass. That's kind of like more phallic, and then the Burgundy glass is more feminine. That's true.
How
bottle
would
shape.
you characterize? I think this is a relatively important question for people to just know. How would you distinguish the wines and the people of Burgundy and Bordeaux versus?
well, I mean, Bordeaux. If you go to Bordeaux, I mean, Bordeaux is about opulence. It's about, and you see some of these beautiful chateaus and castles with nuns and stuff. And then you also see these very high-tech, modern buildings that inside are wineries. And then when you go to Burgundy, when you talk to Burgundy winemakers, they're like farmers.
They're salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And I think
There isn't the same level of sort of wealth and opulence in Burgundy.
But that's where I joke, I think, that a lot of the Burgundian sort of cultural things is they're masking their obscene amounts of wealth.
Oh yeah. Well, there's that.
You know, they're like hippies in the 60s that became billionaires,
Yeah.
but they're still hippies at heart.
Yeah.
And in some ways, they're as wealthy as the people in Bordeaux.
They have castles
They're
still.
they're
Yeah,
hiding
you
their
know.
cash in the caves.
Yeah.
Or like, someone told me once that Burgundy is Martha's Vineyard to Bordeaux's Nantucket.
Ah, yes.
If that makes any sense to
Oh,
anybody.
you were there though.
I go to
recently.
Martha's Vineyard every year almost to visit family, and yeah, man,
That's a good comp, right?
it's a really good comp. Because
And how-
Nantucket's fine, but then when you go to Martha's Vineyard, you're like, oh,
That's actually a lot more blue collar
yeah.
than people realize.
There's just lots of people working. Like it's actual, yeah, 100%.
What about, we've already typecast Super Cab, Super Tuscan. What about Pinot people? Because of, you know, the movie Sideways really did capture a movement as well.
What Pinot people?
Do they exist?
They don't come to our restaurant. It's like I have to show them Pinot a lot because they don't know really like what Pinot can be. I feel like
Really?
I swear
What
because
do you
I'm
think?
I'm on the floor all the time. I'm listening, talking.
No one requests for Pinot.
They all want super cabs.
Shoot.
You're a Pinot guy.
There's like a thousand Pinots on the list.
1,000 Pinots.
And how would you describe a Pinot to the audience?
Oh yeah, just a very aromatic, medium-bodied wine that can offer a lot of gentle tannins instead of like astringent tannins.
It's a little bit Michael McDonald.
Ooh, Yacht Rocky. Yeah.
Oh.
This is what we need. I think we need more cultural analogies and parallels so people understand this
Yeah,
goddamn
I'll
shit.
stop using structure points to talk about wine. I'm just gonna.
Michael
You're
McDonald-
better.
Well, you have a music background.
Well, still, I mean,
So I
Dude,
feel
no,
like-
Yacht Rock
Yacht
is
Rock.
Pinot.
it is.
I think so.
Then what is Merlot?
Metal.
Merlot is metal?
It's pretty hardcore.
Oh, really?
I don't- really?
Interesting.
Like,
You
but
would
just like Metallica. I'm not talking about death
I-
metal or thrash.
I wouldn't.
Oh, I would have thought like Kenny G.
Yeah.
Really
smooth listening
Merlot?
jazz. No. Yeah.
Like you're in an elevator and it's playing at low volume.
It's music. It's music.
It's music. Yeah.
No lyrics.
Yeah.
You know? It's Dave Brubeck.
Ooh, nice one.
Yeah, I like Dave Brubeck.
Yeah, I like Dave Brubeck too.
But
Yeah,
you
me
hate
too.
Merlot. That's
I don't hate Merlot. I don't. I think Merlot's gotten a bad rap. I'm buying Merlot stock.
Merlot's awesome.
You're buying Merlot stuff.
I'm buying
Yeah.
Merlot stock. What stock?
I think
if
we have
there's a
one
one, which one
Merlot
are you
on the
buying
list.
right now as a trade? Can't have the same answer. I'm buying Merlot. I'm going to buy as much Merlot stock
Oh,
as
yeah.
humanly possible.
I'm buying Riesling stock. Yeah,
I'm buying
it's getting better.
non-alcoholic wine stock.
Hey, smart.
I'm going NA ETFs.
Really,
yeah, man.
I understand non-alcoholic beer. Shout out Athletic Brewing.
Yeah, yo.
Shout out to O'Doul's.
Yeah, I don't get NA wine.
Mm.
Why don't you just drink Verjus?
It's what most of it is.
Actually, kind of good.
Verjus
but
great.
it's good.
Actually, kind of.
I'm buying Verjus stock.
Verjus stock. Okay.
It's awesome. You could make wine with it if you want. Just pitch yeast into it.
I mean, or just grape juice. That's what I fundamentally don't get.
Yeah.
NA wine.
Grape juice. Yeah.
Just buy grape juice or Verjus.
I use
right?
it as a crutch sometimes. So if I'm like not, I don't want to drink wine at night, but it's my physiology loves drinking wine.
You just want to
I'll do
hold a
it.
glass.
Yeah, I just want to hold something.
Yeah.
Something kind of smells resemblance of wine. And okay.
Majordomo-ing. On a level 1, 0 to 1, that would be I've had wine.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell anybody that, like, if I was sitting down with my friends, nobody would ask me to order the wine for the table, I think. At what point does that change? 2, 3, 4? Right? What you're
4.
Really?
4. 4, I think, is in the terms of levels. That's like someone who just got their employee handbook and read it all through and can tell someone, you know, what they're looking for, like in general.
okay, here's a different way to phrase it in a completely maybe nonsensical way. What level are you if you know the region of the grapes?
Ooh,
Oh.
5?
One
That's
out of
too
10.
high.
Too high?
I think 4 or 3.
4?
You should know the grapes at least at 1.
Noble grapes.
Noble grapes at 1.
There you go.
I think 1. That's
Esoteric
way
grape.
too high. You're tiger parenting everybody, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just 1 is red and white.
Yeah.
Okay.
1
2
is like
is know the grapes.
I drink box wine.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm a 5 because I'll drink the worst and the very best. I don't care.
I think
I don't
you're way
need
higher than that, but
like 1 is you just don't give a shit,
Mhm.
right?
I think if you have the balls to ask for a somm, which I think you should,
Why wouldn't
like,
you?
and you should do that at level 1.
I
You should just
love
be like,
asking
I have
an
a
expert.
question
Yeah,
about
I
wine.
was like, hey, do you have any? I was like, no. What do you think? I'm always like, you fucking. I don't go to the chef and be like, cook for me this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if people understand how great a sommelier can be. It's like
Yeah.
you literally have someone that will custom tailor
Mhm.
Yeah.
what they have available.
Yeah.
You choose your own adventure story.
Yeah.
It's a full-blown omakase.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Huh.
Even if I know something about wine,
Right.
again, if I knew how to practice, like, if I had to use CPR on somebody, I still wouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
Correct.
even if I know something about wine, I'm always going to walk in being like, you know way more about this than I do. You tell me what to drink. Because I don't
But you
give a
could
shit.
do that at level 1.
I don't think so.
No?
I think level 1, you don't know what you don't know. I think you just like, everything's sort of the same. I think I'm level 1.
I think level 1, I got $100. I ordered this.
I think industry people, front of the house people that sell wine are 3 to 4s,
Yes.
right?
Agreed.
They know just enough to play the confidence game.
Yeah, because a guest is or a customer, where's this from? Alsace, because they have it memorized. At least they know a grape from a region. That's 3.
Quick side
Or
note: when you're constructing a wine list, how often are you playing the psychological game of like, I'm going to force the reader of this menu into this section right here?
Oh, that's 100%.
All the time.
It's an art. It's an art
That's
form.
100% all the
All the
time.
time.
is
All
what
the
he's
time.
Probably say.
How,
All the time.
I don't think in all forms of media this has never been discussed. How are you doing this?
There's all sorts of techniques. I mean, I think with pricing is probably the most powerful tool to do that.
Yeah.
And undervaluing some wines, overvaluing others. I mean, all sorts of things that you can do.
I think having 75 different Rieslings to choose from forces the eye to go, what? There's so many Rieslings instead of just having one and you're not going to know if it's sweet or dry. And, you know, I don't know if I'm going to order that. But like having 75 and then a sommelier going, which one do you want? A dry one or an off dry? That's the one for you. Oh, great. That's cool.
How many people just buy the second or third cheapest in any section in your list?
Yeah.
That to me is the most powerful law.
Yeah.
It should be like the 5th law in thermodynamics.
Yeah.
It's like people will
Second
always
cheapest.
buy the second or third cheapest.
Yeah, no one wants to buy the $65 wine.
Which is why
But they'll
I'm
pay
trying
for
to
the
say is like,
the
Yeah.
80.
Yeah.
why don't we encourage people to buy the cheapest bottle more often?
Our cheapest bottle doesn't sell.
Yeah, I know it never sells in any restaurant.
It does not sell.
That's
I
what I'm
swear
trying
to
to tell
God.
you. It is
And
like,
it's a liter.
what do you call that? Bracketing.
yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. though.
I think people need to feel encouraged to buy the cheapest bottle
Mhm.
because it never sells in any menu of any
I
restaurant.
love our cheapest bottle.
Yeah.
Like I do drink that all the time. So it's a liter and it's rosé. This is fantastic.
What is it?
It's the Passatella Rosato from Molise. It's awesome. It's like a dark rosé.
You're not going to put something crappy on your wine list. So
Right.
I just think maybe we need to encourage people to start ordering the cheapest
The absolute cheapest. Yeah.
because it puts a lot of pressure on you to stock up enough of the second to third most
Yeah.
expensive or cheapest.
Some
wine.
people have really gone the other direction, you know. I mean, some people in the city are really marking their prices down these days. You
Oh,
know, we
yeah.
got
They gotta
like
move.
pre-pandemic pricing cocktails,
Mhm.
pre-pandemic pricing by the glass. You
I mean,
know?
the tariffs are going to fuck up everything if they actually happen.
Mhm.
And this is going to make eating and drinking in general not pleasant at all.
It already has started and it sucks. So
again, we talked about when you are getting on the serious level, it's buying a wine bag, I think that's around a 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Bring your own stems.
Oh, yeah.
Stems, I think, is like a 7.
It's up there.
It's like maybe
Maybe
like a 9.
above
A
that.
9, yeah.
Yeah, like 9.
At what point does the wheat get separated here where you're now like, I now know when I sit down, I'm always thinking about scenarios. I sit down with my friends and, your college buddies, and they know like, hey, Dave's getting really into fucking wine. He's the wine guy. Let him order, right?
Yeah.
Once you've passed that, because you're no longer going out to dinner with those friends anymore. That's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into wine, you stop going.
I established myself as that person in high school. Fake ID, Vegas. I was 18 years old. And then I was at Emerald's Fish House. Ordered Chateauneuf de Pop.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Well
for
done.
my birthday. Yeah.
You were already a level 5.
I was faking a 5. I was operating at a -2.
That's so cool.
How strong was your order? Did you fool everyone? It's like, this person knows what they're doing.
I just knew that my taste had to be better than my friends.
Well, that's the thing. And I don't mean this in a disparaging way like I do most everything. When I said there's a moment, if you're into wine, and it's very similar to food as well, right? When you shed your longtime friends when you go out to dinner, you just won't do it with them.
Mm. I got very lucky because all my friends went to CIA and they're all like, they know wine. So
it's a moment where you're like, I want to savor this. I can't do it. I think that's around a 5. But there's this point, regardless of whatever hobby you're picking up, where I feel like 5 to 7 is the dangerous moment where you could be somebody that's quote unquote in wine and fool everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
If you know a few producers' names who are like the ones, you're
That's
good.
it.
You just, oh yeah, you have some Keller? Just pick the cheapest Keller. You'll look cool. Like, yeah, we'll just do that one.
That's where I feel like
Well, just pick your dining companions to be a little bit,
Yeah.
below your level. Then you'll always look great.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
what are the metrics, or what do you need to feel like where you're no longer a poser, an imposter? I sit down. So let's just say you are, for whatever reason, working as sommelier at Anajak for the day. And
It'll happen.
I'm coming in, I'm ordering, and then like, what do I need to do besides drinking this properly, holding the stem properly, to prove to you guys, like, hey, we gotta go tell somebody we don't know this person, but they know what they're doing. And that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
They order well. There's nothing more exhilarating
Oh, I love
when
it.
people order fucking great and they drink great and they're having a great time. And you literally, this is how you can become a VIP in restaurants, besides treating everyone great, is ordering both the food and wine like a fucking rock star.
Oh yeah.
And when somebody does that and you've never seen this person before, do you alert the kitchen and vice versa?
Oh yeah. And I put notes in the host stand, just all kinds of stuff.
But from a drinking perspective, what do they order and what are they doing to gain this like aura?
I think this is the ideal scenario, is that someone sits down, immediately orders a champagne.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
That's the
Why is
very
that?
first. That's the very first thing.
To say that.
They say,
So
take the
classy.
coupes away, bring out regular glasses.
Yes.
I'd like to start with the champagne. This is before they ordered. And they pick one of the producers we like. There's champagnes that are just about 200 and then plus. But you already got our attention at 200 plus. Because 200 and below, wines sell themselves, I think. Or they should. It's hard. I think at that point, then, all right, we're playing ball.
Yes.
And it's a 4 top. They've ordered the first round of all cold dishes with champagne. They already know we got to start this way. They say, all right, they don't finish the champagne. It's now stashed to the side of the table. And it's like, all right, bring out new glasses. Let's talk white Burgundy.
Yeah.
Because I like a structured method to the meal. If someone starts out and they're like, I like to order a red, and you're gonna blow, and I'm already like, all right, that's the first and only bottle we're gonna sell these guys.
Yeah.
They start talking white Burgundy, and then the list stays on the table. That's all. And they're constant. They're just looking at the list, putting it down. They're eating. They're not talking to their friends. That's the person we really
very quiet.
enjoy.
Like, love that.
But they're stoked.
They're
They're
cup of
asking,
the carpenter.
yeah. They're asking
everything.
questions
It's always
about.
goes back to Indiana Jones. Be the cup of the carpenter in every aspect.
That's cool.
We're gonna bring out the cup of the carpenter for you.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's an amazing moment to be able to signal back. Like it really is a wonderful moment for the staff to be like, we got a fucking diner here, folks. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's like they appreciate it, and they're like, "Oh, we love that you put this on. Oh, I love that. I bought this and this. Ah, that's a great price." If
they
someone's
know the
like,
pricing,
"Oh,
that's a
shoot,
big-
oh,
that's a big one.
That's
Yeah.
a really good price for
Do
that."
you know
yeah.
wine? Here's an interesting question. I don't think
That's
there's always
super
an answer.
advanced.
Very.
Does everyone that brings their own wine and does their corkage know wine?
No.
So I think you brought up an interesting point though. So to actually signal that you know your stuff, I think it's around a 6 to 7 once you shed the I'm not an imposter. I also think it's a crucial note that, and this could be in any Majordomo-ing category, you are first to admit the limitations of your knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Love it.
you're always looking to fill your vessel.
Yes.
It's constant humility.
Yes. One wine director of an old restaurant came in last week and he said, "You know what? I'm not so sure about this." And I was like, "Oh." And he's like, let me try one of those. And it was awesome. I was like, cool.
It's great.
Something I knew about that he didn't think, chef.
My favorite
It was awesome.
My favorite wine directors in the city are the ones that are like, I order a wine that they know that I know. They know that we have it on the list, and
Yeah.
they're like, "But you've had that. Have you had this?"
Mhm.
Like Rachel from Antico,
Yeah.
she's like, "We know you've had." And it's like, in Antico, it's an incredible Italian list.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm trying to order French wine, and she's like, but have you had this? And I was like blown away, and my palate expands, my mind expands,
Mhm.
my appreciation for the meal expands, and I'm like, you know what? That's great. Because I think at the core of it, wine is about learning. I think dining is about learning. Going to restaurants is about, exploring one's, adventurous palate.
But here's the
Yeah.
thing that I think separates a wine beverage drinker versus just somebody that's a foodie that's trying to get into food. You can be a 7 in food and not give a shit about wine. You cannot be a 7 in wine and not give a shit about food.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah.
It is
You're right.
they're intertwined.
You're right.
Completely.
And there's a lot of Michelin star chasers that I would say don't drink at all.
Yeah.
100%.
They just come for the food. They've saved the money for the food, and the budget is for only the food. Maybe they'll have a glass. They're not going to waste time. But you're right. It doesn't go the other way.
Funny.
In terms of that learning curve, we're getting to a 6 and stuff, but at the lowest levels, because you talked about the point system isn't quite reliable, how can someone gain this knowledge? Or like what research, or are there resources or an app or something? Like, is there any way to learn at the lowest level to get from where I am at a 1 to get to like a 3 or 4? How are you getting there
That's
if you
actually a
can't
good
be going
question.
out
I know.
and tasting as we already discussed?
Oh, I mean, that's pretty easy, I think.
Is it?
Like
Yeah.
you learned a lot about wine going to Everson Rice.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about wine going to Augustine Wine Bar because they had like old Bordeaux by the glass. I could actually get Coravin and taste and talk to the guy. I was learning a ton, little by little. Like, every time you go, or you go to the wine shop, you go to like Silver Lake Wine and you ask them a question. They're just like, okay, this, or this. This stuff starts to stick if you're listening and if you're trying, because you could easily like just not try. I don't know. That's for me.
What are your thoughts about an individual that can't pronounce the names of vineyards? Not even the grapes.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's actually a real stumbling block for me.
It's all right.
And my pride and my ego refuses, so I'll just be like, "What do you think on this one?"
yeah.
There's hard, but what about people
I don't
who
wanna say-
pronounce it too correctly?
Yeah, I can't.
Champagne?
That to me is again a big hurdle. That it should be like
He corrects me on pronunciation all the time. You were correcting me on You're like, it's not
Oh, I would never.
Sharub, it's shoy rubber.
Oh, Schwebe.
So
yeah.
I'll give you an example. If I come into the restaurant, like just because like one of the first memories I had of drinking a nice bottle was it used to be the Somm at Kraft, and he was opening a bottle of Ravino, and he's like, I want you to taste this. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is great.
Yeah.
And back then it was probably on the list like 125, 150 bucks.
Yep.
Right?
Good days.
Now, how much? Like a decent vintage?
Oh, like a few hundred at least.
800?
Just for like a recent vintage? Like, yeah, it's like 300-400 or
I
like
think way more than that.
for rap. I mean, just regular AC
Yeah.
Chablis. I mean, yeah.
So like, how would I, who has stopped learning about anything about, micro producers as a whole, be like, man, I really love the flavor from this region, but I don't want to spend 1,200, 1,500, 1,800 plus.
I love that.
Where would you direct me?
Yeah, you could do other.
Because I personally love pairing, Chablis with food. It's my favorite pairing because I think it pairs with fucking everything.
Everything.
From raw. I don't know why people don't think it pairs well with meat.
Yeah.
Pairs well with, it's the most versatile wine as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Everything.
I mean, that and champagne are the most versatile.
But if you say, you've tried Ravino and then you're asking the guy at the restaurant, what can I find that's not up there? Most good somms will know their neighbors. And their neighbor's wine is much cheaper, but it comes from the same vineyard plot, maybe just a little bit down the slope. So Vaillon, I have the Jean Collet Vaillon. That's perfect. So if like, I like Ravino, but I can't afford it right now. I'm like, great, I got your back. I'm going to get you the same vineyard that you're talking about.
And
Literal.
they're friends.
They're
They're
homies. They're probably intermarried.
Like Valentini. If you don't want to pay for Valentini, you can buy Amarotti.
And this moment is like what we need more of.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you find a lifelong customer.
Yes.
And even if the sommelier leaves the restaurant, it's like it's just these moments of entry that I don't know are happening in nearly enough.
I hope it does.
I think it takes a lot of somm power to do it too.
Yeah, what's up with you, dude? Step up.
I'm just trying to step up, man. I just
You
can't.
can't cook and do everything.
No. We have 3 somms on the floor at all given times.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. I mean, because I think the power of talking about wine is the only way to move it and to get people to drink it.
And it's a free service for the guest. And they find value in that.
You still back out of it if you don't want.
Yeah. Sick of it, man.
That's like, I think it's nice to get to a 6 or 7 because that means you can get to that level without having, you can be still a fan without having enormous amounts of money thrown at it. Anything over 7, I think, are cost prohibitive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be
Really wealthy.
insanely rich.
Or super stupid.
What do you mean by that?
Or just put it all on credit cards.
Yeah.
Ah,
I mean, that's what I used to do.
No, don't do that, friends.
Credit score.
anything else you guys want to cover? There's so many. This is such a massive topic. There was no way we were gonna. For whatever reason, I thought we'd be able to talk about Anajak and his culinary philosophy at the same time. But
Well, what do you think?
It's hard.
My question to you is, what do you think the future of wine, for both of you guys, future of wine lists in restaurants are?
smaller, way smaller. I mean, you go first.
No, but I see it all the time. There's no list that look like ours, like that. We don't see them, so like they're always smaller and less extensive. Make it easy, make it simple. Don't have a sommelier. That's like the GM is the somm.
Yeah,
like that's just
Somms are going to disappear.
Yeah,
I do think it's just a cost. Everything to me is like the spread offense in football, where you have less expertise, but it's easier for everyone to play.
Mm.
I think it's one of the. I think it's one of the. As a PSA for Somm lives, it's like, it's a great way to be in a restaurant and not have to work the grinding hours of the kitchen.
Mhm.
It's a great way to be in a
They live the best life in a
It's
restaurant.
the best. And I think that it's a great, for me personally, it maybe they'll go away. But I think that every small restaurant should have one person who's dedicated to wine buying and wine stewardship. If they're not called a som, that's fine. They could be just the lead server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's my litmus test, and I'd love your thoughts, and we can end it after this, or if you want to talk about anything else. But it took me a while to really appreciate Le Bernardin as a restaurant, as a cook. It just didn't excite me food-wise. I also couldn't afford it. I didn't understand it. I was like, what the fuck's the big deal? Now I'd probably say it's my favorite restaurant in America because I can eat without feeling like I'm going to vomit, which I have at a lot of 3 Michelin star restaurants in New York City.
At the restaurants?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. You know who you are.
Oh, God.
It's just so much food. It's so much booze. You know, still awesome.
You like high-end seafood spots.
I do. And I will go to these restaurants all the time. When I say disparaging things, it's not. I love it. I love it. I love all that, even though I don't want to eat that way anymore. I really used to love it. But Le Bernardin to me that's for old people, and I don't get it. But you get to know the chefs, and I get to know the people in the kitchen, and you get to know Aldo and the whole team that he creates. To me, it is a bellwether restaurant for not just New York City, America at large. I think the pairings at that place with the food that they have is like nothing else. Mm-hmm. It's uncanny, you know, although, well, hey, this is a goulash. I was like, what are you fucking serving goulash for? It's like, I got the perfect wine for this. And you're like, no way. And it's like, it's unnerving when you go to a restaurant and it happens at your restaurants. It happens to a place where the food and the wine are intertwined at a level that truly transcends it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to express where you're like, whoa, I didn't know that each of those things could elevate the flavors and the experience. It is a magical feeling.
Magical.
But reason when you say where sommelier or wine is going, everything trickles down from the top. At one point, Repair will retire. Maggie Lacose might sell the business or whatever. It's not that Le Bernardin may not have another generation of people running it. Aldo might go back to Europe. Who knows?
Don't say these things, man.
I know, but it's important that we talk about it. Is there another generation that will open up a restaurant like Le Bernardin? Not even talking about the next generation that might take it over. And I feel like when we don't have restaurants that are ambitious, that are trying to be this thing that is like Hermes, it's like a Birkin bag. You're like, once you understand, you're like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? We need more places that are trying to be ambitious in ways, not necessarily pushing the boundaries of the envelope, besides places like where you can change the game, because that's what Anajak has done in terms of having world-class beverage program, wine program, with foods that were traditionally not paired with that. We're not even talking about what Lotus has done in Vegas and things like that. It's a distinctly unique beverage program. Mm-hmm. I think that we need more restaurants that are just
wildly exceptional,
that are not stuffy. Like the Bernardin, you can eat there in a business casual, and you're not having a 5-hour dinner, which are great. And that's what I think is where if we can't cultivate that, then we need to reverse engineer from that. That's just my thoughts on that. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree.
That's why I think LA would love to see something like that, beyond Providence. And there's a couple really outstanding examples of that in LA. I'd love to see that here. I think that style of restaurant we typically have seen in SF and in New York.
But even still, SF in New York, when's the last time something like that's open? That wasn't a tasting counter restaurant. Mm-hmm. That wasn't... Bernardin is a beast. Yeah, it's like 250. I think fully seated. Not crazy. 250, 200, whatever. It's way bigger than you would think. And it's like, we haven't had that kind of restaurant in a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe we've democratized dining so much that we don't get to play in those types of arenas.
Right.
You know,
it's like certain things have become aspirational that are not the right things to be aspirational in beverage and wine.
I mean, we need the haute cuisine in order to get the pret-a-porter trickle down, as you say.
Can you explain that in layman's terms?
You know, you need those like really outrageous runway shows with the theatrics.
We need artistry.
We need that kind of artistry.
Craftsmanship at the highest level.
Because
I get it. I totally agree.
I think, but this is my personal philosophy, is that I think you can bring that to the level of a neighborhood restaurant, you know? And it doesn't have to be as plush and as lavish and as like, you know, the shoes and the sport coat before you step in the door type of thing. But I think LA could be the place to do it at this point. We have really great talent.
Justin,
there are places
so
opening up.
I'm too optimistic.
You're very optimistic.
There are
You hate
places
it.
I'm
opening
a
up.
dark, self-loathing individual, so I can't even jive with that.
Yeah, me too, man.
all of our so many of our tasting menus feel underground and like, you know, behind closed doors. In New York, it's like Broadway. It's so big.
I don't think it's not just LA. I think this is a fundamental shift. The last restaurant that I thought was trying to do that on a beverage program, wine, was Crew. When Shea Galante and Robert Bohr were there, you couldn't ask for a more powerful pairing in food and beverage, great location, great financing. And if Crew can't work, and that was like in the heyday of New York City, I don't know what's going to happen.
But would you open up a restaurant like Le Bern if you had the chances to?
I don't know. I would want to, but that's the thing, is like, I don't know how you can. And I feel like if we can answer that question, I don't know why I have blind faith that everything else gets answered.
I was talking to Chris Gostow, Napa, and he was like, I was like, when are you going to ever reopen the, you know, Meadowwood? And he was like, I want to, but it's going to be at least 5 to 7 years of my life just in that place. And like, I'm going to have to go so deep into that world, and like, I'm going to lose time.
And
it's going to be a vortex of time. And his other places, his very, you know, accessible, approachable places do really well. And like Napa loves that. It's so grueling. That's why I think it's somewhere we got to find that little overlap in between.
Are you going to open up something like this?
People have asked us about the tasting menu.
It doesn't have to be tasting menu, but like
the high end thing.
It doesn't have to be high end. It's an experience, you know, and it's an experience that I'm not saying the new restaurant has to be Le Bernardin, but we need to innovate an experience where people feel like it's grand without it having to be grand. And I know what you're trying to say with a neighborhood restaurant. I hope that happens, but I think in general, it's like, it's hard to do something wildly ambitious in 2025 like this.
I mean, maybe we only see it in Japan. Maybe it only happens in, you know, maybe. But I don't know. I do see it here and there. Labor is expensive, and those types of ventures eat up so much human capital. I would love to see what you would do. I mean,
I don't know if I'm ever going to put on whites again like that. You know, I really don't, because of the same things that Costa said.
I have a vision that it's one weekend. It's 3 days.
If I put on whites one day and do it would be like open one day a week. You know,
didn't you say it was in a pod like long time ago? You'd open up a restaurant. It was only 2 4 tops.
Yeah, something like, or something like five people. You know, a restaurant that I've never eaten at that I wish, and it's Magnus's from Favakin's favorite restaurant. It's Ibai in San Sebastian. Closed. It's just reopened. It's not the same owners, but it was like 2 tables, maybe 3 tables tops, and it looks like an old beaten down San Sebastian basement kitchen. But they bought the best ingredients you could possibly buy. And it was great wine and everything. And that idea that you're just cooking for somebody, and it's not cheap.
Of course, yeah.
That's what I would want to do, right? I feel like artistry in that regard, I would love to be able to make food where if I just want to serve a bowl of just chicken soup, with nothing else, that's fine. But that's for me now. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is still a young person's game in the sense, not in age, but where you're not jaded, when you just know enough. And I feel like you sort of hit that spot when Anajak started to really evolve in ways like that's like you didn't. How would you know any of the stuff was going to work?
No, we didn't.
You didn't, and that's the beautiful part. But would you do it now with everything you know? Would you but would you try to do the things that you know are so fucking hard?
I didn't know what I didn't know at the time.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and now the team does things technique-wise and craft-wise that I would have never thought that they would have wanted to do ever. And it even surprises me. Just like, I'm like, oh, why'd you guys do that? And I'm like, oh yeah, we rotate the green onions this way so that the water content flips around. I'm like, really? Like, that's really... Is that
beautiful.
Worth the time? And they're like,
that.
it's worth the time. And I'm like, all right, if you think it's worth the time, let's fucking go for it.
Love it.
So yeah, I mean, we should have you back on to talk more thoroughly about restaurants, and I'd love for you to open up this restaurant, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to open up more restaurants, but I don't know how personal they're going to be in terms of like that dream-like restaurant where you're open 1 or 2 days at most.
The economics is insane. This is like countryside in France level economics.
But imagine if you could, right?
It's un-American.
Fine, we need that.
That's true.
My dream restaurant, I can't remember the name because I've never gotten in there, and I can find the name. It's in Japan, and you basically rent out this little house. And you rent it out years in advance, and you just show up that day, and they're just cooking for you, like 6 courses. That's it.
The only way to rent it out is to rent it out when you're still in
the reservation. Is the house.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I don't know. And as you say, astutely, I think everything goes back to what's happening in Japan to some degree. Maybe.
It's got to happen in other countries too.
I refuse. Anyway, we've taken enough of your time.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
You didn't even toast.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even get to answer anything, but I have to finish up this pod, but I don't want to keep you guys here longer than you have to.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
I appreciate
for
it. Thanks for bringing the wines, Ian.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, I could have continued talking to Ian and Justin for a long time, and it was a long, meandering conversation. And apologies. I did think that I was going to be able to talk to Justin about more culinary topics, but he's so intertwined with wine that I wanted to give us a better understanding of where we're at and the challenges in the wine world right now. And I think some of the long-held sort of assumptions that people might have had. I think what he's done, people don't need to copy what he's made food-wise, but I think copy the spirit, because it's a beautiful thing that's happened at Anajak Thai in Sherman Oaks. So check it out. There are a couple other restaurants that were mentioned. Providence, Michael Chiramusti, 2 Michelin star restaurant. Arguably the best restaurant in all of Los Angeles. One of the very great chefs, good guys in the world, and a real favorite restaurant of mine. And again, I always say, if it's not a 3 Michelin star restaurant, I don't know what is. It currently has 2 Michelin stars, and is so significant to the LA dining scene. I just think it's underrated as a whole. We also talk about Antica Nuevo, Chad Colby's restaurant in Koreatown. fantastic restaurant. One of my favorite restaurants, let alone Italian restaurants in the country. And I do think he makes the best ice cream in America. That's just my humble opinion on that. We talked about a few other things, but maybe we'll try to collate and organize some of the verbiage that was used, because again, the vernacular of wine is what truly keeps people from understanding it. So while I appreciate it, it's not what I do on a day-to-day basis anymore. I think it's pretty late in the game for me to start to be a collector. And I guess in another way, being friends with some of the biggest collectors in America, arguably the world, makes it hard for me to I'm going to be like these guys. It's just is a different ball game altogether. And while I appreciate it, I think it was important that we had Justin and Ian here to talk about some of the things that are missing and what makes food, restaurants so goddamn fascinating. Arguably the best job in the world, and sometimes the worst job in the world, is because it can draw upon every facet in culture: science, anthropology, sociology, history, business, etc. And clearly that is mirrored in the world of wine as well. The reason to bring up beverage and the decline of alcohol sales is this is a seismic shift that's happening in the hospitality industry. I don't think it's getting enough notice or attention. It'll be too late if we don't come up with some solutions, because, in a low margin business, if you are losing the revenue and the margins that come from declining beverage sales and you have potential tariffs, this is an existential threat. I view this no different than what might have happened with COVID. So just trying to raise attention on that in general, because I do have great concern, and we do have businesses, and, a lot more to be said about that. And I didn't get the chance to ask them their thoughts about drinking wine with ice. One of my favorite drinks in the world are spritzers, wine spritzers in general. But I do love bad white wine. Doesn't even have to be Chardonnay. Basically any shitty white wine on ice. It's just a great beverage. Doesn't have to be watered down per se, but I love that. And that's why I just look at it more as a beverage. And, and I save the moments to drink really great wine when sometimes I'm with someone else that's paying for it, but oftentimes when it's a celebratory occasion. So I don't want to, apologies if I came across disparaging any groups of people. Again, I love all the wines, and, people have their fans on their certain vintages, but if you can't poke fun at things in this business, then what the fuck are you doing? Anyway, we're going to get you out of here. We should talk a lot more about the subjects that were spoken here today. We didn't get to do a moif because this went on. It's probably one of our longer